Welcome to the first launch of Still Believe in Love podcast with Sonia Adams. I'm so excited, that I get an opportunity to share my story and share with others to just be a blessing and just share journeys, testimonies, just all things just to be encouraging and to help others and just have conversations. So I'm excited today because I have a special friend, my therapist, almost a full year after my divorce, and we're going to be talking about healing, life after divorce, and just things that help us to move forward and have optimism in our life. And Karen is here today. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you.
So glad
Thank
that
you
you're
so
here.
much.
Yeah, and Karen is a certified professional mentor, mental health coach, and she has been doing therapy for a while, and she has gone through a divorce years ago, and God healed her, and through her journey and her testimony, she is helping others now. And so we're going to share some things that she shared with me, some things that are strategies and things that she's used to help herself and others. And we're just going to have a conversation. So we're going to start today just talking about you a little bit and just tell me a little bit about your life, your divorce, and how did you get through it, and what led you into therapy.
Yeah, thank you, Sonia. I'm so happy to be here. I was married for only 4 years. My ex-husband was unfaithful. I was unaware of the fact that when we married, he had a sexual addiction. And what I have found through my experience and also becoming a mentor and a certified mental health coach, that that type of addiction is 9 times out of 10 brought into the marriage.
Yeah.
And yet the spouse, the person who is married to someone who has a sex addiction, automatically thinks it's our fault. It's something that we did wrong. We failed in the relationship. We couldn't meet the person's needs. And yet the truth is, he, and like I said, 9 times out of 10, I believe what happens is this person brings the addiction into the relationship. And so he suffered from that, and I was unaware because it's often very hidden. It's done in isolation. And yet what happens, and what happened in my case, was my ex-husband was unfaithful, and that led to our divorce. And years later, I did become a mental health coach and a mentor to help other women, like you said, who have suffered betrayal trauma.
Yeah, and betrayal is a different facet of, coming through a divorce. A lot of times people divorce, but they're not always betrayed. And for me, coming into that and understanding that was different, and meeting you really helped me. So what are some of the things that you think help women if they've been betrayed? Because there's a lot of paranoia, there's a lot of, like you said, self-critic where you feel like it's your fault. There's also where you feel this guilt, shame, like I could have done something. But what do you think is the way that women can get over betrayal if they've had it happen in their lives?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one that we really wrestle with, and something that I didn't have the tools at the time that it happened because it was so long ago. But what I've learned is there are a couple of things. What come to mind are 3 separate ways that I help coach women. One is psychoeducation. I think it's really important because our brain, when we ask the question, why did this happen? Why did this person do this to me?
Right.
Psychoeducation helps because if we don't have answers, we fill in the answers. And oftentimes they're wrong. We self-blame and carry the responsibility. But what psychoeducation does, for one example, is it helps us create boundaries for future when we're going through life post trauma or post-divorce. And what happens when you are able to create boundaries, you learn what's important to you and what your needs are. And that helps you
Yeah.
kind of create a safe way of going through life. Second one is just being aware of your emotions. I like to use the acronym RAIN.
Oh, yeah.
And this is helpful because the R stands for realize. Realize that throughout trauma and throughout the divorce process, your emotions are heightened. And it's so important to just accept that and be aware of that. So R stands for RAIN. A stands for acknowledge. So acknowledge, what emotion are you feeling right now? Is it anger? Is it sadness? Is it sorrow? So being aware and acknowledging what emotion you're experiencing. And then I stands for investigate. Investigate why you might be feeling the way you do. And then the N is nurture. So give yourself space, give yourself time and grace to experience the emotion you're feeling. And whatever it is you need, whether it's talk with a friend, or the third strategy, like I like to encourage my clients, and what I really didn't experience is connection. Because when we are betrayed and we're going through a divorce, we want to isolate. At least I did.
Yeah.
I wanted to crawl into a hole.
Yeah.
I was in my 30s, and
Oh, okay.
all of my friends were just starting their serious relationships, just starting to get married, and here I was divorced already. I was ashamed of my situation, and so I wanted to isolate. So that third strategy is connection.
Yeah.
And that can be found if you live in a city like we do, Atlanta. There are many churches that offer divorce care
Yeah.
or programs like that. And there's something very powerful about being in a group of people, being in a room where you see other people who are experiencing the same pain that you are. There's something very powerful about that. So the third strategy is connection.
Yeah, and I love the connection part, but I want to talk about connecting unhealthily, because that's something you helped me through. So I know, we talked about you need connection, but sometimes you find yourself in connections that are not healthy just to have it.
Yes.
Because as human beings, we desire connections. And, you went with me through all my relationships. I don't really call them relationships, but I call them connections, void fillers. My best friend and I call them bodies. We just have bodies. You gotta have bodies. You don't have bodies.
Yeah.
But what I found out, I was going through a cycle of just having people in my life to fill that void and fill that space so that I couldn't feel the pain.
Yeah.
And I remember, going through several just connections and finally saying, you know what, this is not healthy. I need to deal with the pain. And you use the cycle. What is it called again?
It's called the ambivalent attachment cycle.
Okay, then. So I want to talk about that a little bit because I found myself in a place when I was so tired of just being alone, which isolation is necessary for some point, some healing, but I was just alone and I was just like, I'm connected to this person. Just have a conversation, just have a male presence.
Yeah.
But when I was tired, I found myself just gravitating to things unhealthy. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah,
Okay.
of course. And thank you for being so vulnerable. It's hard to admit that we do need connection because it feels a little like, oh, I'm needy or I'm weak or I should be able to handle this on my own. And so, yes, we are created by God for connection.
Right.
But you're right. The important thing is smart and wise decisions toward these connections, because if not, you can really find yourself in situations that you regret and wish that, oh gosh, if I could just backpedal out of this, I would be better off. But one thing you're referring to is that cycle, and I do have to give credit to the therapist Michelle Mays who came up with
Okay.
this. And when I heard it, I thought, wow, this is something that we really do experience in relationships. But before I go into the cycle, I just want to say that a couple of things that I do recommend to my clients when they have experienced divorce is no one likes to hear it, but I do try to encourage people to take at least a year off. No romantic relationships.
That's hard for me.
I know, because we were created for connection.
Right.
But I do say try to experience all 4 seasons as a single woman or as a single man, because marriage changes us. And when we're all of a sudden in a single status again, we may think that our preferences, our desires, our values are the same as they were when we were single. And a lot of times we need to realize that we're different people now. We've been through a marriage, maybe created a family, and our values are different. So take time off and really think about and explore who you are.
Right.
And when you're ready, then pay attention to these making wise decisions. And I like to, before I go into the ambivalent attachment cycle, I like to advise people to turn on their GPS.
Okay.
And their GPS helps us stay in tune and in touch with the Lord, and also keep us out of decisions that we regret. G stands for, is this decision I'm about to make or this thing I'm about to do, does it honor God? Does it honor the people? That's the P, the people around us, this decision I'm about to make. Will it really honor the people that are in my circle? And then S is, will it honor myself? So we need to turn on our GPS.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. It's easy to remember.
God, the people, and
then self.
Right.
Yeah. GPS.
That. Yeah.
So the attachment and ambivalence cycle, again, Michelle Mays, therapist, and she helps women like you and me who suffered betrayal. What she has coined this ambivalent attachment cycle is the cycle that we tend to go around and around in, and we all do it in relationships. But when we've suffered betrayal, our warning bells go off when we have been triggered.
Oh, yeah.
And we're triggered by something, a reminder of something that occurred in our past. And so when the trigger occurs and we're in a relationship with someone, we freeze and we go into fear, and we go into avoidance.
Right.
We back away from the person because we're afraid of being hurt again.
Yeah.
And so that pulling away causes tension inside of us, because what we really yearn for is a connection. So, but we have been hurt again, we're triggered, we're afraid, so we pull away, and this causes this tension inside of us. And so this tension does keep us safe because it keeps us isolated, but sooner or later, we just get so tired of pulling away from a person. So all of a sudden, this exhaustion causes us to let go of that fight, and then draws us back to a person.
Yeah.
And when we're connected again, we feel calm, we feel safe, we feel like we're able to operate under usual and customary ways. We can relax.
Yeah.
And then we feel triggered again.
Yeah.
Something inevitably happens in us or in the relationship, and we feel triggered. We're reminded again, and we're afraid, and we're scared. And so we're fighting from being connected to that person, because all of a sudden we feel unsafe.
Right.
And we hold on to that tension, and we fight against that connection. And then again,
it's that cycle.
Cycle.
And I understand it because, I would have triggers. I mean, as simple as, you've been married. I was married for 27 years, and I went to get my car done, which typically I didn't do.
Right.
I had a male, I had
Yeah.
a husband in my life. And I'm in there and I'm like, and it just triggered me. And I felt some kind of way. Tears started rolling down my eyes. And I realized I'm alone. And so when I got that trigger, I just like, you know what, this is not happening again. So I just kind of, like you said, you isolate yourself, you back up, but then you feel lonely again. So
Yes.
you keep going through the cycle. So with that, for me, you know, just being still and really healing, because I remember I had gone through the cycle. I was connected to someone, and I was hurt. I
Yes.
pulled away, and I connected to someone else, and then
Yes.
finally, I said, you know, I think this is it. I'm gonna, you know, be still and heal. And I took 5 to 6 months, which I should have took the full year. So I broke it up, and I said, okay, I'm gonna be still and really heal and let God do some work on the inside. So when you're going through that cycle, what would you say are some ways to heal? And then I'll share a little bit of how I healed.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The healing is what I did not have. I didn't have any strategies.
Okay.
Because when I was betrayed and then subsequently divorced, betrayal and trauma were not even used in the same sentence. This was nearly 30 years ago. So nobody even knew what betrayal really does to a person. And so what I've learned over the years, and now what I help women through and do, one is journaling.
Yeah.
Journaling is so, well, I want to say it's easy, but it's not easy. None of these tools are really that easy, but most of them are free. And journaling is free. And there's something about writing, the act of actually physically writing connects. It's so interesting. It connects to the same place of your brain. When you're writing, you're using the part of your brain where your emotions are stored. And so as you're writing and you're writing about your emotions, this pain that you feel, this sadness, this depression possibly, or anxiety, you're writing and you're stirring up the emotions that are stored in your brain and you're releasing them out on paper. And then what I like to do is at the end, just say, God, I give this all to you. Yeah. Your shoulders are much broader than mine. Right. You can carry this for me. And I will write a prayer at the end, just releasing what I've just written about and what's been stored up in my body now on paper, and I'm releasing it to Him. Journaling is a great way. Yeah. Another one is connecting to a safe, advisor, a therapist, a friend. A friend is, priceless during these periods, and have more than one. Ideally, maybe someone who has experienced the same thing you're experiencing, who can understand. Right. But anything but isolation. Yeah. Connection. And I love you said safe, because I remember you telling me that you were like, Sonia, are these places safe for you? And some were not safe because I was still getting things happening to me or being hurt verbally. Yeah. So they weren't safe places, but because they were connections, I was like, well, it's the connections, but so safe. And I'm glad you brought that up. As people are listening, that is very key. Make sure it's a safe place. Yeah. Safe space. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So this has been a great conversation, and I want to just go into another direction a little bit because I feel like for me the healing happened when I took that time. I actually let God heal me. I was in, you talked about going into a place of isolation, and sometimes you need to do that. I was in a cave, I was in a closet, I was crying, I was, just really asking God to heal me, to break soul ties. And I needed that time to know who I was, to know what I wanted, to understand my self-worth, and also to see myself in another space in my life. I went from being married 27 years. Yep. Now I'm a single person. Okay. How does this single person
respond, and how do I show up in the world? Who am I? So I had to really come to that space as well. And I finally began to love myself again, because we talked about the inner critic. We won't go into that today.
Oh, yeah.
But
Wow.
that really helped me to realize not to criticize myself and shame myself, and love myself the way I love others. So I remember that exercise. So it was so powerful, and I stopped criticizing and really began to love myself the way I love others. And when that healing process happened, I began to say, well, I think I'm ready. I don't think nobody is fully 100% ready, but I felt like, okay, I'm ready. So I wanted to talk a little bit about when a person is ready to love again or open themselves to a relationship again. What do you think prepares them for that?
Yeah. Wow. First, I think what a person really needs to do is take a step back and spend the time that they need, no matter how long it takes, to get to a place where they feel they are seeing some consistent joy and contentedness in themselves. And of course, we're always going to have good days and bad days, and that's simply the grief cycle. The grief cycle is not linear, as we talked about.
Right. Yeah.
And so, yes, you will experience days where you feel heavy with sorrow. But if you can get to a place, maybe it's through journaling and just kind of tracking your emotions, day after day or every other day, when you get to a place where you feel you've had consistent joy and inner contentedness that may come from connecting with others, but not so much romantic, with friends, and you're feeling lighthearted again. You're in the reorganizational phase of grief, which is step number 4, or phase number 4. And you can really start to relax in the presence of others.
Right.
You can think about others. That is critically important, because when we've been wounded, we go inside naturally. And so our focus is inward. And when we can start to lift our head up when we're out and really feel the joy of the people around us, take in nature again, start smiling naturally. When you feel that way, just when you're by yourself and not necessarily in a relationship, that's when I feel like, inside you've done healing and you are ready to give to others and receive.
Yeah.
You're always going to have, your guard up for some period of time, and you may pull back, you may connect again, you may pull back, but when you can see yourself really being more consistent with your emotions, I think is when someone is ready.
I'm glad you said that. And that's kind of where I am as well. And I think when you are in that place, you make wiser decisions. And you think with your head and your heart, and not just your heart and your emotions, where you can make bad, poor decisions sometimes when you're just so headstrong and you want to, go into an emotion to fill that void that we just talked about. When you're in this space, which I feel I'm in this space, even though I meet men now, I'm not desperate, I'm not needy. I can evaluate. I know my preferences. I know my values, and I know my worth. So I'm not just going to jump into something just to have a connection like I did prior. If I look back on some of the connections I made, I said, now, this Sonia wouldn't have even considered that. But because I was so desperate, I was so needy, I wanted touch, I wanted connection, I just jumped into things. And so I think being healthy is so vitally important. And I'm glad you shared some of the things that help us to be healthy and to be ready, And there is still love. There's still life after divorce.
Absolutely.
But so, and I'm excited about the next chapter, but I'm not rushing into it. I'm just allowing it to kind of unfold. And when when that person comes, I'll know.
Mhm.
And I think I'm a better person for that person. And likewise, I pray about the person that God has for me, that they are also maybe in this mindset as well. So it's an exciting time, we're both in our 50s and we still can love again, even at this age. And I'm excited about that. So I'm so glad you came to have this conversation with us. Is there anything else you'd like to share, or before we end today? Because it's been a great conversation. I know it's helping people. It's even helping me. You confirmed some things for me today. Me understanding where I am, and me even launching this as a release of my pain now becoming purpose.
Yeah,
and to help others to get to the other side. So, I think we covered everything. And I did have that question. Do you still believe in love?
Yeah, I saw that question.
Yeah.
And, I'm glad you asked.
Okay.
It really allowed me to pause
Okay.
and think about that question, because we all wonder that after pain.
Right.
Is it possible? Am I ever going to be able to trust again? Am I ever going to be able to extend my heart to someone? Wow, that's scary to think about. And you're right. I am also in my 50s. I've spent a lot of years single, but also in relationship, because I do believe we were created for connection.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I do believe in love 100%. I do believe, for me personally, I'm doing it differently. And that is that my marriage was built on sand. And I know that now, looking back.
Right.
My marriage was built on sand, and it crumbled. And so now I'm careful. I know what my values are, and I know that for me, God has to be in the center of my relationship. And if that's the case, and if I've gone to God first, which is for me the very number one most important step for me when I think about a relationship, is, okay, God, what do you want for me? Because I've done it my own way and I messed it up the first time. And so if I know if God is in the center and He is guiding me, then He'll give me that sense of, no, not this. Don't go that way, Karen. You're gonna regret it. And so for me, as long as God's in the center of the relationship, then I know it's built on the rock. And in fact, I am in a very serious, committed relationship. Yes. Yeah. And I've given me hope. Yeah. I have been for quite some time. And I can honestly say that this relationship is built on the rock. The Lord is between us, and we go to Him in almost every situation. And we have found when we don't, we regret it, and we have to backpedal and course correct.
Yes.
But that's what it's all about.
Okay. Well, great. Yeah. And so you do still believe in love?
Yes, I do.
In love, and it happens, and that's good. And there are good men out there too, because
there are. We
need to dispel that rumor. Even though we know things happen to us, betrayal, but there are still good men out there. Yeah. And I want the men to hear that, because sometimes, we go through hurt, pain, then it becomes where we beat men up, or it's the male bashing, and that is not this show at all, because I know that there are things why people go through things, why people do things, and understanding the heart. So glad to hear that. That's exciting to hear. Yes. And that is an exclamation point on my show. Still believe in love. It still can happen, even after divorce, even after betrayal, even after pain. Absolutely. It can still happen. So, 100%. Yeah. Well, Karen, I am so excited that you came here today. Thank you so much. Again, I want to thank you for helping me through my trial, through my journey, and to get here. God used you tremendously, and I know you've started a new job now, but if you still are doing that in any way, you know, I'll have your contact information. I know you're taking
Thank you.
a small, you know, pause, but you are still, God still uses you in that fashion. I talk about you all the time and tell and for others. So it's been a pleasure to have you as my first guest.
Thank you.
And I know a lot of people are going to be blessed and helped by some of the things that we shared today.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Love it.
All right. We are ending today. Still believe in love. And until the next time.